The pandemic has impacted our lives mentally and physically. Teaching and learning in the arts also augmented due to this global crisis. Change has been constant since the beginning of time. It is a matter of scale and speed of the change that we are learning to cope now. In 2020, when the country has a first lockdown, all of us here at NAFA is at our last phase of final assessment. The situation compelled us to look at teaching and learning in a whole new way. Our priorities, values, and mindset all shifted, rearranged, and reimagined. It is through the integrations of technology that I discovered the connection between teacher and learner become more close and much more vulnerable, which is a good thing for human connection. Being vulnerable is a must for any real work to be done in the arts. The actor's art's work is housed in the body of the actor. Manifesting the imagery sense to the body is often seen as subjective and hard to articulate. Therefore, there is emphasis that teachers and students need to be physically present in the same learning space during movement training, so that teachers are able to observe, feel, and provide feedback for improvement. Nonetheless, it is also suggested that such a mode of learning fosters a predominantly teachers-focused experience, whereas the inclusions of digital space can engage students in more self-directed or self-managed forms of learning that mirror how theatre ensemble members learn. This presentation, I will discuss how students learn to make creative decisions while synthesize Asian movement forms with Western texts in the creations of characters and how technologies supported their personal developments of movement practices. I think technology really changed the way we impart skills and share knowledge in the performing arts program, because the method that we traditionally employed to teach has evolved as technology evolved. Therefore, the content also augmented. Traditionally, teaching and learning in a classroom of movement lessons is like this. Teachers observe students' work. Teacher give feedback to the work. And then student improve based on the feedback. With the technology advancement, we are able to observe and have more effective feedback with students than before, with the engagement of TPAC in the teaching of body and movement. TPAC is a technological integration framework that identifies 3 types of knowledge teachers need to combine for successful ed-tech integration: technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge. So now, the teaching and learning in the classroom of movement lesson is like this. Teacher and student observe students work together. Teacher-students conversation. Students improve based on the conversation. Teaching is imparting self to the others who attempt to learn. To me, teaching and learning are interconnected. They are coexisting that cannot be discussed separately. It is like breathing. We breathe in oxygen into our body, but we can't hold it and leave it out for too long. It needs that constant exchange of breath to make us alive and sustainable. Same way for teaching and learning, it needs constant exchange to sustain the life of the teaching and learning ecosystem, so that the ecosystem continue to grow without ceasing and it continue to strive and nourish the human being. In this analogy, the constant exchange of oxygen means conversations between the teachers and the students. Teaching in the performing arts that is body movement based is to share my understanding of the skills and professional experience required to reach a certain professional standard. The performance ought to be truthful, believable, and captivating. Unlike artists who draw, they can see their artwork being formed on the canvas as they paint. The performer's artwork is inside the body. Applying these professional standards are difficult to articulate just by word. How to be seen as truthful, believable, or captivating? To understand these experiences is so vital to the development of these alive arts. It is these experiences that draw people to this type of live performance. You need the physical skills to create such experiences in the theatre. As a performing artist, I'm constantly working with a live art form that emerge in the moment of time, something elusively vital that lives in the body of a human being. The kairos of time, also known as the experience of time. How the body experiences time and space, how the body creates the experience in time and space. Because the moment happened live, once it's gone, it will never appear again. As an actor, creating this experience again and again is a challenging task. But with technology, we can now capture the moment, observe it, making sense of it, and feedback on it. Reflective feedback is such a powerful ingredient for self-improvement. With students recording themselves performing and later observe and having that conversational feedback with the lecturer, the learning experience has become much deeper and less doubtful. Shakespeare said that the eyes are the window to your soul. The feedback on that the teacher is seeing has become an important part of the teaching and learning ecosystem. To explain what I see to my students can be frustrating, as interpretation can be very different in a moment. Here is a homework from a student. When I receive students' work, I ask myself, how do I make understandable feedback in live art that happened in a moment? What if I miss that moment? Does the student know which moment I'm talking about? How can I capture that moment and analyze that and explain that with my students? With video recording, I can see it again and again with my student to make the conversational and feedback. John Hattie, in his book, Visible Learning, talks about seeing through the eyes of students to understand the perspectives of the individual student, making better decisions to guide students to the next step. For me, teaching and learning is interdependent. Therefore, it is as important for the student to learn to see through teachers' eyes. To do that, technology really enhances this process of seeing from each other's eyes. Having video recording so accessible, it makes it easy for teacher and students to learn from each other and have that corresponding feedback that is crucial for learning and professional growth. I ask students to record themselves executing a scenario, and we will watch the recording together online. They will give feedback to their own work and sometimes their peers' work. I develop a guiding rubric to scaffold students' level of skills. It simply means create a scale to measure students' ability and identify the gap, then coach accordingly. Example, if student X is at level B, how do I coach these students to progress from level B to level 1? Here are my guiding rubrics for me to scaffold students' level of skills as they comment on their own work. Subjective evaluation without technical vocabulary. Commenting on the movement without explaining. Example, okay or fine. Movement as literal gesture. Describing the movement with general evaluation statements such as good, bad, or with stereotypical adjectives. Movement as process. Describing the process, evaluating it based on prior knowledge of theatre studies, comparing and differentiating rhythm in movement. Movement as process to aesthetic. Describing the process in detail, evaluating it based on prior knowledge of theatre studies, imposing technical aesthetics and suggesting examples, having awareness of rhythm and emotion. Movement as characterization. Describing the process, evaluating it based on prior knowledge of theatre studies, synchronizing emotion with movement, having new insights and perspectives of movement quality. There are two things I look at when I give feedback to students: attitude and skills. Attitude is more for me to understand students' learning behavior. Example, students who are open-minded and self-directed versus students who are offensive and emotionally closed up. The inclusions of digital spaces in movement lessons can engage students with more self-managed forms of learning and enhance the quality of teaching in the live arts form. I think at the end of the day, I just want to make teaching and learning in the theatre arts a truthful, kind, and beautiful encounter. 真善美. A more meaningful and connected place where the knowledge of the arts can be nurtured and flourished. Thank you for participating and showing interest in the arts. Sharing is caring. Let the conversations of arts and teaching continue beyond this presentation. Thank you.